Hi class, and welcome to FMS 598, Film and Television Genres, Science Fiction. I am your professor, Michael Green. I didn't originally intend to save this introductory video for the night before. However, I have had the flu for the past 9 days. I still have it, but the video must go forward, so I apologize for any flu-related activity that occurs during this video. So the point of this video is just kind of give you a tour of the course by me, so you are familiar with all the elements and sections of it, and you know what you're doing. I also wanted to let you know that I am a real person, and that we're going to do this as close to real time as possible. The course starts tomorrow. So after this, if you have any questions or issues, just feel free to email me and I'll get back to you. So most of you have taken a course in the program thus far and more or less know how everything works. But I don't want to take anything for granted, and I know there's probably a few new people as well. So we're just going to go through the different components here. First of all, you can download the syllabus. I put a Word doc and a PDF doc here. So whatever works for you. All the information in the syllabus is more or less repeated in the course content, screenings, and the assignments. But you should read it through carefully anyway, especially since some of the ASU policies are in here. Including things such as plagiarism policy, disability accommodations, classroom policies, etc. So if you need anything, if you need any kind of accommodations, please let me know. So let's quickly read through the course description here. Science fiction continues to be a favorite genre of movie viewers well into the 21st century, even as other important genres of cinema's classical years, such as the Western and the musical, have more or less passed out of popularity. That doesn't, of course, mean that the Western and musicals aren't still made. We have The Greatest Showman, for example, which is a moderate box office success right now. People still see these movies, but they're not as popular as sci-fi continues to be. And even though sci-fi is considered a quote-unquote B genre, in other words, a genre that's not important or considered to have artistic merit, something that we'll go into in depth later in the course, these films still command the largest budgets in Hollywood. And they're consumed by the largest audiences. If you take a look at the box office numbers for The Last Jedi, for example, right? It's closing in on 600 million. People like these films, and this suggests that they're more culturally significant than they're often given credit for. And that's one of the things we're really going to explore in depth. Why is science fiction so popular? And again, we've had a number of other huge movies beyond Star Wars: Guardians of the Galaxy, The Hunger Games, Avatar, Interstellar, The Avengers, Planet of the Apes, Transformers, Mad Max, Star Trek, and others. So again, some of Hollywood's biggest franchises. In fact, I would go so far as to say a good proportion of them are sci-fi. However, it's not just the terrain of the blockbuster. Sci-fi also continues to attract small budget filmmakers, who in recent years have produced such films as District 9, Ex Machina, one of my favorites, Under the Skin, Snowpiercer, Primer, Melancholia, Upstream Color, 10 Cloverfield Lane, another one of my favorites, and many others. So there's movies also made on small budgets, right? And maybe the genre's flexibility in generating such a wide array of stories helps account for its continued attractiveness to fans. It seems like sci-fi really allows for a diversity of storytelling. And that has to do with how big its canvas is, right? I mean, the whole universe, and the past and the future. So it's a pretty large canvas upon which to create a story. So what are we going to do in terms of scholarship? Well, we're going to investigate why sci-fi in the movies, we won't get into TV as much, although we'll talk about it a little bit. That's a whole other whole other realm, right? But why does sci-fi cinema remain so resonant in our collective consciousness? And we'll critically analyze the way that sci-fi movies reflect and influence society and culture. We'll watch a number of films and discuss them in terms of such subjects as sci-fi's purpose and function, the ideological and political meaning in sci-fi, its place in the cultural canon, which we just discussed briefly a moment ago, the relationship between science fiction and horror, which are often genre partners, allegory and dystopia, transhumanism and artificial intelligence, which are the subject of a lot of movies right now, the concept of singularity, and some cultural representation, identity, race, class, gender, sexuality. Of course, as always with the grad class, we'll read relevant scholarship to help us analyze our meanings. You will also engage in formal film analysis and make arguments about meanings yourself. Honestly, that's really your main outcome, right? Can you look at a text, a science fiction text, and analyze it historically? Can you analyze it in terms of its genre elements? Can you analyze it in terms of what kinds of formal film elements typically go in to creating it? And by formal film elements, I mean things such as cinematography, editing, sound. So overall, these analyses are designed to advance your visual literacy so that you can analyze and understand media better, specifically science fiction media, but also so that you can make sustained, cohesive, interpretive claims about sci-fi cinema, so you can talk about it, so you can write about it, so you can bring a more multifaceted understanding to your consumption of it. That's really the purpose of film studies in general. Readings, I have linked them all to Blackboard under the lessons, and I'll show you that in a minute. So, being a online class, there's not a lot of policies as far as like eating in class and that sort of thing, but the one thing I don't do is accept late work unless you clear it with me ahead of time. If you're going to be sick, or if a religious holiday or something happens, I can work with you, but you need to stay in communication with me. That's the main thing. Don't not do it and then 2 weeks later say, hey, this happened. I'm not likely to accommodate you under those circumstances. Okay, so let's look at the course. The assignments are listed here in the syllabus, the dates. They're also listed within each lesson, and I have an assignments calendar for you. I find that students do well when they have multiple places to check assignment dates. And the calendar is a particularly convenient place to look. So let's load this up, and you can see basically it's a 7.5 week course, and you have an assignment due each Sunday throughout the length of the course, and then you have your final exam after the course. All right then, so let's just go down here. Professor articles. Some of you have me before. You're familiar with some of my scholarship. You're welcome to read it here. You don't have to, except for this one, which we're going to be reading when we get to our lesson on Star Trek. Something that I wrote about Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country, one of my favorite films, and one that we'll be watching in this course, one that I think really yields a lot of complex meanings. I wrote something recently about Game of Thrones. I've got a couple of other sci-fi articles here, one on Tron. I contributed Oxford Bibliography article on Star Trek. In other words, I wrote an annotated bib about all of the scholarly, or not all, but a lot of the best scholarly writing on Star Trek that's available. So if you're interested in that, you can come here and get a quick access to a lot of the articles. Right now, I just finished a piece about The Last Jedi. I'm going to try to submit that tomorrow and see if I can get that published somewhere. So if that gets published during the course, I'll certainly link it and let you know about it. I'm also writing a piece on Blade Runner 2049 right now, and we'll watch the original Blade Runner here in the course. So I've got a couple of more sci-fi works under construction, and then other stuff that I've written. If you want to read an article about La La Land, something here about Taylor Swift, an article about Pulp Fiction. So my articles. And you know, they help you get to know me as well. Like what are my interests, what is sort of my style, sort of my take. Screenings. All this is here is a list. You are responsible for obtaining these films on your own. In the past, the ASU library would obtain the films, digitize them, and stream them through the course site, which was incredibly convenient, not to mention free for you guys. Unfortunately, they discontinued that service, which is very sad. The good news is that renting films now is very, very cheap. I certainly haven't, I haven't given you any books to buy. I've provided all the readings, so I'm not asking you to spend a lot of extra money here. You can find all of these movies. Some of them are probably already available on Netflix or Hulu or Amazon or whatever other site you have for free. You might find a few, like Invasion of the Body Snatchers, for example. You might even find them on YouTube. But otherwise, for $2 or $3, you can rent them on Google or Amazon or iTunes. As I write here, although you can watch them on your computers and your phones and your iPads, that's certainly not the best way to watch them, right? The best way to watch them is on a big screen, as big a screen as you can find with good sound. That's how they were designed to be experienced. Although, of course, we've got some great films here and they're entertaining, and I hope you are entertained by them. The key here is to watch them for study, take notes, and watch them more than once if you need be, because they will form the basis for all of your assignments. And here they are. I tried to get some from a number of eras. Forbidden Planet, Invasion of the Body Snatchers will represent the very abundant sci-fi cinema decade of the 1950s. Alien, Blade Runner, and The Thing from the late 70s and early 80s, RoboCop, Star Trek VI, as we discussed, and then moving into the more recent decade, Wall-E, Attack the Block, Her, Under the Skin, and Snowpiercer. We'll also watch a number of clips from other films that I've linked to the course. Critical film writing PowerPoint. Some of you are familiar with this from my other classes. It's basically a PowerPoint that I put together that just gives you a tutorial on how to write critically about film. We're not using this for any assignments as we did in previous classes, but I do want to give it to you as a resource. Lots of good stuff in here about film writing, and you can download it and take it with you as a parting gift as well. Announcements. This is I'll actually end up having the home page land here. And so when you enter the course every time, if there's anything new, it'll be linked here. And any announcement that I write, I'll also send it to you as an email. So you'll have that doubled up. Okay then, let's look at the content a little bit. You can look at this stuff yourself in detail, but I just want to kind of show you how the course is basically organized. You come to each lesson and we'll have a lesson menu here that tells you what all is involved in the lesson, the main subjects, the screenings, the readings, the short videos that I've linked, and the assignment. The lectures are here. Of course, you have to watch these for each. There's 2 for each lesson, except for lesson 6 when there's 3. Come in here and you have access to your readings. Super easy. Most of the readings are not long, which is why in some places I've linked a number of them. But again, this is a grad course, so you are expected to do a little more work anyway. So going back to our lesson, we have, sometimes I'll have supplemental websites linked that may or may not be used in a lesson, but you might find interesting as ancillary content. Excuse me. Additional screens, you are responsible for watching short videos that I've linked. So here in the first one, H.G. Wells, the father of sci-fi, a couple of primers on basic formal film elements like mise-en-scène and cinematography and editing and sound. And then the assignments. So assignments are going to be a little bit different than some of the ways that I've done assignments in the previous courses. Assignments are going to be mostly reading questions. So I have the lessons, or I'm sorry, the questions under each article title, so it's pretty easy to see what you need to read and answer. And then the last thing you'll do for each assignment is a short film analysis of 500 words. So, for example, the first one, finally, explain how Forbidden Planet constitutes sci-fi. You should address icons and conventions, its representation of science and scientists, its plot and themes, and formal elements such as cinematography, sound, and mise-en-scène. So, whereas this is more or less just making sure that you understand the readings, engaging with the readings, the last part will be your critical writing analysis. And 500 words isn't a lot. If you've had me before, you know that I've asked you to write like 1,500 words a lesson. So just a little bit different way to organize the course and give you a little variety. And then basically to submit it, just click on that and come down here and write your submission. Make sure that you write it here under write submission and not here under comments. Otherwise, I won't get it. All right. So lesson 1 is basically introduction to science and science fiction. Lesson 2, science fiction as allegory. What is allegory? And how and why does science fiction employ it? We'll watch a couple of famous sci-fi film allegories, Invasion of the Body Snatchers and Snowpiercer. Lesson 3, we'll look at science fiction as dystopia, which is a very, very common and popular sci-fi subgenre. And science fiction as the cautionary tale. What is science fiction trying to warn us about? And we'll watch Blade Runner and WALL-E. Lesson 4. The relationship between sci-fi and horror, as I mentioned before. And getting into some practicing of analysis. How do we read the sci-fi film? How do we interpret meaning out of it? So we'll look at Alien, Ridley Scott's original 1979 Alien film, because it's one of the most popular of all films that's analyzed by scholars. And we have some very interesting interpretations of it. Alien, a Myth of Survival, Alien as an abortion parable. And we'll also analyze The Thing, which is a fascinating film and one of my favorite films in the course. Lesson 5. Transhumanism, artificial intelligence, and the singularity. I'm not going to explain what they all are right now. They're explained in detail in the lesson, but I think once you finish this lesson, you'll realize just how timely and important these concepts are to our current moment, both culturally and technologically. The future is here, folks. It's one of the things one of the exciting things I think that we can talk about in this course. And we'll look at RoboCop and Her, two more what I consider really exceptional sci-fi films. Lesson 6, we'll get into some cultural studies, identity, representation, whiteness studies, gender studies, queer studies. How are race, class, and gender and sexuality represented in film? And it's really important and also very timely. Because, obviously every time a film comes out, be it a film like The Last Jedi, where people are complaining about the diversity and the female leads, or a film like Ghost in the Shell, where there's a lot of criticism against the yellow face, right? The cultural appropriation of it. So there's a lot going on in terms of that in our culture and in cinema right now. And then finally, in lesson 7, we will look at Star Trek, and we'll use Star Trek as an opportunity to talk about media convergence. Again, the era that we're living in, all these different kinds of media coming together to create new media forms, new ways that we consume media. And we'll talk about fan culture. You can't really talk about sci-fi without talking about fans, right? Cultural appropriation, high versus low culture, and what we mean by the canon. So we'll get into a lot in that last lesson. Your final exam essays, you'll be given 3 essays to write at the end of the course. They'll each be about 3-4 pages long, so you'll have about 12 to 15 pages to write at the end of the course. But I'm not giving you any other papers. It's just the weekly assignments. So to have to write a couple of exam papers at the end, once all your other work's done, and you're in command of all the material, I don't think it's, of course it'll be a chore, but I don't think it's going to be too much for you. So the last thing is one more assignment in addition to the exams and the weekly assignments, and that is Yellow Dig. And that's our participation form. Some of you have used it. I think it's fantastic. It's really the best way for you guys to engage with each other in the course, because otherwise you don't really have an opportunity to. So the way it is used is you'll come in here to the forum, and it's basically a Facebook style forum. So you're all used to it. Very simple to use. You're essentially posting content and you are reacting to each other's content. So welcome to the forum. Please post an introduction. That's the first thing that I wrote. So what are we going to post in here after you post your introduction? Well, as I cover in the intro video, this is a very, very meta video, as you can see. You should be submitting content related to the course and commenting on each other's posts. You might post and comment on reviews or articles on recent, current sci-fi films, of which you can always find a ton. Seems like every film that comes out, there's a lot of cultural commentary about it, criticism, reviews, etc. Or it's just class subject related to sci-fi in the news. For example, you can find a new article on artificial intelligence almost every day. Certainly something like Elon Musk with SpaceX and his view that we're all living inside some kind of computer simulation, and his view that AI is going to destroy the world soon. These make a lot of headlines, so certainly provide a lot of fodder for our conversation. So put a pic if you want, you don't have to. Here's one of me. And I already had a student who knows what she's doing. Emily, hi Emily. She commented, and then we've had a few students that have also already, super cool, man. Love it. Have also come in here and started their intros. So I'll make sure that you're all, oh, that's nice. I'm going to Ireland this summer, and Scotland. I won't be there, but I'll make sure that you guys are all have access to this, and you'll come in here and put up your intros. Now, for an example of a film, of an article, I wrote Star Wars science fiction. And so there's a good article here about an old debate. People have been talking about this for the last 40 years. Is Star Wars sci-fi or not. And once you're in command of the genre elements that we're going to classify sci-fi under, you'll be able to make an argument yourself. So the way this works now is when you post, because you need to come up, and the syllabus makes this clear. Just read it real quick. So you'll receive 8 points for every original post and 4 points for every comment on a peer's post. Total credit is 100 points. So an ideal combination will be 8 to 9 original posts and 9 to 10 peer comments dispersed throughout the term. Don't do it all at the end. And you only need to write 30 words for an original post and 15 words for a comment. So I'm not asking you to do a lot. The idea is just that you're engaging with each other and with me. Obviously, it goes without saying that we do not do any trolling in here, especially when we're talking about, identity and representation. Some things that people might think of as identity politics or whatever. You can make whatever argument you want. There's no wrong or right when it comes to what you believe, but we do it respectfully and we support our arguments with evidence. Okay, those are the rules. So just to come back here, you'll see that just posting what I posted, I've already accumulated 21 points. And so as you post, the points will show up here and you'll know exactly how much you've done and how much you still need to do. So it's a pretty fun way for us to all stay in touch, right? Because that's one of the things that's lost in the online environment, is that we don't get to have the cool and the fun discussions that make the brick and mortar, the face-to-face classes so satisfying. So that's it. I know it's a little bit of a long intro, but that's okay. It's thorough, and that's the most important thing. So I do want to say welcome. I'm looking forward to having you, and we will talk soon.